DNA leader Branville Mccartney's brother murdered. Police still have no leads.
We cannot determine the motive.
Another man gunned down just hours later. A national security official sending a strong message to the Police Staff Association tonight. A special conference aimed at promoting transparency in the gaming industry. Plus, we'll tell you how you can help those in need of food. I'm Nakia DeVoe, and this is NB12. Thanks for joining us here at Cable 12 Studios. Here are the stories coming out of the NB12 newsroom this evening. Police say they have no suspects in the murder of Kurt Mccartney, the brother of DNA leader Branville Mccartney. And despite the high degree of speculation that has been circulating in the hours after he was shot to death, police also say they have no motive for the murder. In fact, the only new information they provided to us today in relation to last night's murder is that it appears his body had been dragged. With a report, here's our Candia Dames.
Police say they got the call shortly after 8:30 that someone had been shot dead in Gambare Village in western New Providence.
Officers would have responded and met the lifeless body of a male lying face down in the street with apparent injuries to the upper body. At this time, we cannot determine the motive. We're still early in the investigation, and as soon as information becomes available, we will give a press briefing as to what we have so far.
But police gave no further details at the scene, being careful to avoid fueling speculation as to the circumstances surrounding Mccartney's death. News of the murder spread quickly, particularly via social media. Many people went to the scene on hearing the news. Among them were Mccartney's relatives and opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis, the area MP. McCartney's white Hummer SUV was discovered by police east of Travelers Rest restaurant. That portion of West Bay Street was blocked, but police provided no details on how the SUV ended up down the street. McCartney, a businessman, had a special closeness to his brother Branville. He was at his brother's side when he formed the DNA. They were said to be inseparable, best friends all their lives. On Kurt McCartney's Facebook page, numerous family photos point to a tight-knit McCartney clan. Kurt McCartney's Facebook page is now a tribute wall, with messages being posted throughout the night last night and throughout today. After McCartney's body was removed from the scene at Gambare, his family and close friends gathered here at his home in the West Grove, as you would imagine, expressing great shock and grief over what transpired here tonight and trying to come to terms with this crime situation which has struck so close to home. Among those who were at Kurt McCartney's home last night was DNA chairman Andrew Wilson, who told us he was speaking to Branville when the DNA leader received the news of his brother's murder.
I knew Kurt personally for many years before I even became chairman of the DNA. And he was a brother and a friend to many. It underscores the challenges that we are faced with in this country, the challenge of crime, the impact of crime, and the fear of crime on Bahamians everywhere. And I am shocked, saddened, and in a state of disorientation.
Prime Minister Perry Christie also visited McCartney's residence last night. After offering condolences to the McCartneys, he offered a brief comment to us before leaving the area.
This is a perfect example of a young, successful Bahamian man whose life is one of success through hard work and achievement. And for whatever reason, he's met this untimely death, clearly most unexpected, very, very tragic in its implications, but a profound lesson to those of us who are responsible for public policy, and to all of our countrymen and women who oftentimes tend to believe that it's just those people over there who become perpetrators and victims and never us. But this now is another reminder that one of us have been killed.
After the Prime Minister departed, psychiatrist Dr. David Allen, who is also close to the McCartneys, offered similar comments. He expressed sadness and grief over the murder of the young Bahamian businessman.
Brian, ever since he was head of the Chamber of Commerce, he fought for wanting to correct the crime situation. That was one of his passions, and Kurt was always by his side. So tonight, we live the greatest fear we always had. It's now one of our family. And but it's for all of us, all those Bahamians. Tonight is me, tomorrow is you. But somehow we got to stop it now because it's having a tremendous impact upon us as a country.
The McCartneys did not speak directly to the media last night, but they did offer a few words through former journalist Jerome Sawyer, one of their relatives.
It is a very, very difficult time. It certainly speaks to very difficult times in our country, and they would ask that members of the press, the public specifically, just allow them this opportunity to grieve and to be there for each other. But certainly they thank you for your show of support. Thank you for being here tonight.
While authorities have said that in 2013 crime is on the decline compared to 2012, crime of course remains a major national concern. Reporting for NB12, I'm Candia Dames.
Well, police were called to yet another murder scene just hours later after a man was shot multiple times early this morning. According to police, they were called to Palm Beach Street around 6:40 a.m., where they found a man suffering from a gunshot wound near a green two-story building. That man, who ASP Bonamy has identified as 58-year-old Verona Venanel, was taken to hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. When our news team visited the scene later today, the pool of blood the man was found in was still visible. Now, no residents in the area wanted to speak on camera. However, our news team followed the man's trail of blood to the rear of a Palm Beach Street home, where a smaller pool of blood was seen near a hole in the perimeter fence. We understand that the man was often seen playing dominoes in that same yard. A resident who did not want to be identified said the victim may have been on his way to work early this morning when he was shot on Florida Court, 2 streets away from where he collapsed. Police were on the scene this afternoon interviewing residents in the area. Anyone with information on this latest murder is asked to contact police at 919 or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. Well, the war of words between the Police Staff Association and government officials escalated today when the Minister of State for National Security called the association an F&M tool. In an interview with NB12, Senator Keith Bell suggested that the PSA's actions and comments are politically motivated. He also discussed the possibility of action being taken against executives. Vonnie Toot has that story.
As the controversy continues over whether police officers working 12-hour shifts should be compensated, Minister of State for National Security Keith Bell blasted the Police Staff Association today, calling the association a tool of the Free National Movement. He also suggested that action should be taken against the association after its executive chairman, Inspector Dwight Smith, made certain comments in the media.
Police officers, in my humble opinion, I've spoken to them any number of occasions. I've spoken to them up as early this morning coming here, and the police officers are not complaining. It is the executive arms of the association and their personal grievance. They have always been a tool of the Free National Movement, and I would ask them to refrain from that.
Bell lashed out at PSA Executive Chairman Inspector Dwight Smith, who insisted this week that the association will not back down from its threat to take legal action over compensation issues and will not be dictated to by the Commissioner of Police, whom Smith says was appointed, not elected. Bell suggested that the PSA's actions appear to be both politically and financially motivated.
When the association gets up and speaks, I'm not only wondering whether they are speaking through political overtones, but whether or not the chairman and his executives isn't concerned that officers cannot work as much private engagement anymore, where they are not able to put money in their own pockets. But the reality is, when they work those private engagements, when they do these sort of things, they're using police resources. They use the police vehicle, the police firearm, the police uniform.
In a letter to the editor published in today's Nassau Guardian, former police officer Arrington Watkins accused Inspector Smith of blatant insubordination and suggested that the PSA chairman be disciplined in short order. The state minister for national security says he couldn't agree more, asserting that Smith was out of line when he went over the national security minister's head and sent a letter to the prime minister.
There is a clear violation of the Staff Association Act. But again, as we indicated in Bumpy Watkins' letter, he indicated that we need to look at amending the legislation, the Royal Bahamas Police Staff Association Act, because the Act sets out certain processes and what the objects of the association, but the Act does not indicate what should happen where there is a breach of that Act. And so that is where the water becomes muddy, you see. And so, again, I do support that some action must be taken. But again, the question is, what action can be taken?
At this critical time in the country, Bell says government doesn't need the PSA's political support, just its support in keeping Bahamians safe. Since the new crime plan was unveiled in early September, Bell says more than 50 illegal firearms were taken off our streets last month alone. He also noted that as a result of increased police presence, at least 3 rape attempts were thwarted.
They had a woman screaming right off Montrose Avenue. They stopped their cars, went around, and there was a young man already tore off the young lady's clothes and trying to rape her. He ran off in the area, and they were able to prevent that rape. Prevent 2 other attempted rapes in 2 other areas.
Bell would not say if government officials intend to meet with PSA executives. However, he assured police officers on the front lines that officials are proud of the work they're doing on our streets. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
Some 200 Ignagua residents were without power last night after BEC officials followed through with a disconnection exercise. We spoke with several irate residents who admit they are delinquent in their light bills, many owing thousands of dollars. But they blame the utility company for taking over services from Morton Salt and then expecting residents to pay 30% of exorbitant arrears. Novelette Turnquest Handfield, a self-employed mason who has 2 dependents, said she owes around $13,000.
I mean, I've been trying to pay on it, like, you know, every time I get a couple dollars, but what they asking for is a killer. You know what I'm saying? I could meet my payments if I could just put a little something towards the back stuff and pay my bill like every month. But what they asking for, you can't just find $4,000, because I say I probably could do mine in 3 years with a push. Then they had it to 2 years. Now they come back 18 months.
Well, BEC's Chairman Leslie Miller told our news team that those residents have had enough of an amnesty period and should bring their accounts current. He estimates residents on that island owe BEC more than $500,000 and adds that only a minority have been disconnected. Elva Lindo, a mother of 4, said she is struggling and just could not afford to pay 10% of her now $3,500 bill when BEC offered its assistance program in June. The program was launched in an effort to reconnect more than 7,000 delinquent residential customers throughout the Bahamas. Meanwhile, Leon Turnquest, a retired contractor, said it would take time before residents can make any dent in their bills. He called on the government to assist before the whole island ends up in darkness. Turnquest said his bill is $7,000.
People don't make that kind of money here on this island. But hey, my own is a joke. Some people also ain't turned on yet. My own is a joke.
Yeah, power has been disconnected, and they tell me I have to pay some $3,500 for reconnection fee. No, I don't have the ability to pay everything in cash. That's why they give me a 30% to pay out of what I owe, and I still can't come up with the amount unless I get it from the bank.
MyCal MP V. Alfred Gray acknowledges the challenge faced by many of his constituents, and while he says BEC has offered a payment plan, he is hoping the company can be more understanding. Gray says he will continue efforts to find a resolution to the problem.